as a upstanding citizen, you're like, oh, I don't have a problem with it. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm going by the rules and stuff like that. And bam, you get smacked with this random thing that you didn't do 2, 3 states away and like had no idea of. Up first, actually, with essentially like all of the AI, deepfake, and video and everything like that, obviously there's going to come the day where like this stuff comes out in court cases and everything like that. So there was apparently a wrongful arrest. You know the lady's name?
Yeah, Angela Lips.
5 months in jail. 5 months in jail after, and she's a grandma in Tennessee, guys. That is crazy.
Yeah, so this is crazy. So a little bit more on what happened with this. Basically, if you ever watch police videos, like I'm not afraid to admit I do, like on social media, sometimes I'll get in a doom scroll and I'll get a bunch of police body cam video, recordings coming up or whatever. But one thing that was super interesting to me is that in some places, they are now starting to use facial recognition software to get your identity when you're not complying. So it was really hard to get people to do, obviously, blood samples. It's really hard even to do a thumbprint sometimes if their hands are really messed up or, whatever. And so now they've basically said the safest way to be able to identify somebody with AI is, using facial recognition AI. And facial recognition has been used in the airports now for several years as kind of a second verification layer, which is very important and very distinct because it's not the primary identification layer in most cases. In most cases, you still have a TSA agent standing right there, with your ID. The program, looks at your face. They basically do a double check real quick to make sure that it's who you are. And it's really just for flagging anything where it's like, if they're trying to get through the line quickly or whatever, they may not notice something that's off about it. Your facial ID picture gets run across a whole database of known dangerous people and criminals and all this stuff. So it's been around for a while. But it's always been, again, that secondary verification layer. It's now being used as the primary source of identification in a lot of cases where, let's say you get pulled over, right? And you don't have your ID on you and, you don't want to tell the cop your address and your name and your date of birth. And they basically say, okay, well, we have to know who you are. So there's only so many ways that we can identify you. And the thumbprint machine is either too expensive, so he's not the cop car with it, right? In a lot of cases, that's what happens. Like there's one of these devices for 10 different cops on patrol at once. And so, with Face ID, it's a lot cheaper because once you have the model running, the device itself is just a camera. There's no like biometric kind of physical device.
Think of the cop too. It's like less like time touching the IDs. I mean,
exactly.
If they're sick,
Yeah.
You don't know what's getting passed around.
You could do it from a little bit of a distance.
That interaction as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so like overall looking at it, it's a good idea, but the key assumption here is that the technology is foolproof, right? Like that's the big thing about like you compare that to getting somebody's ID and running that in a database that's literally querying hard data across a whole series of databases. Like that's an actual black and white thing that you can trace all the way back to the code, right? It's very deterministic. AI is probabilistic, right? It's trying to come up with the best guess based on the task that it's been given. And in this case, it's trying to find the closest match for a face that it can match. And so because this lady unfortunately looked very similar to somebody else, that the AI within its margin of error was not able to tell that it wasn't them, that the police did their job and said, okay, well, this device that I'm entrusted to use as part of my job is telling me that I have to take you to jail. So, this is what we're going to do right now. So I thought it was a very crazy story because it's very Orwellian. And it's basically showing kind of both sides of the spectrum where it's like, listen, image AI, this type of image recognition AI is also being used to identify like breast cancer in women way earlier than a human doctor ever could. So like there's that side of the benefit of the technology. But at the same time, as we see here, it's being used to unfortunately arrest people sometimes. And, we are in a midterm election here in the US. And so there's a lot of talk about voter ID and identification to be able to vote. And, with how pro AI this government has really shown to be, you could see that that's definitely a discussion that comes up is like, okay, maybe you don't have documentation, but we're going to at least make you do a facial recognition scan to see if you're in our database of, undocumented immigrants or fugitives or, whatever. And that's kind of scary, to be honest. And we've talked about it for years that it might happen and that these are the conversations we're going to have. Yeah. And yet there's really no true regulation that is going to control what this can or can't do, So, definitely crazy times.
It also makes you think on the other side, in some of the other stories we've covered and mentioned, like talking about like drone strikes and Palantir's technology and stuff like that. This ultimately is the same tech that the government is using for these police departments and everything like that. That I imagine our military is using similar form of it. So that's kind of scary. Like imagine
it's coming home. That's exactly right. It's coming home now. It always starts overseas. It always starts in a war theater. And then we're like, hey, you know what? That seems pretty useful. And this company just, spent hundreds of millions of dollars in research for the Pentagon and for this contract. Of course, they'd be not doing their fiduciary duty to their shareholders if they didn't also seek a non-military use case in a consumer market, but using the same technology. So we're going to see that forever, until there's something passed that says like, hey, if this is used in war, it can't be used in the US, then you're going to have a huge implication on like gun laws and stuff. And it's a whole discussion about what we can and can't do. But the biggest thing is that we need to all be aware that it's here, right? Like now it's not theoretical anymore. It's not something that we're just maybe saying might happen. It's like, this is a perfect example of like, it is happening. It is here. And we really need to make sure that we're discussing it and not just going along with it. And we ask questions, and because there's going to be tons more of these court cases, unfortunately, I think. And all of those court cases are ultimately what's going to be referenced when we do try to create certain bills and certain regulation around how this stuff should be treated.
Yeah. And it's crazy when you think about it, like as a upstanding citizen, you're like, oh, I don't have a problem with it. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm going by the rules and stuff like that, or so I think. And then bam, you get smacked with this like random thing that you didn't do 2-3 states away and like had no idea of. I mean, yeah, it's crazy. Hey, David Morello here, your host from SaaS with DaaS podcast. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and check out some of our other clips right here. And you can go ahead and see one of our other episodes or even clips from this same episode from SaaS with DaaS podcast. We'll see you on the next one.